I've got 5 DIY Christmas decor projects that I'll be making, and I'll teach you the steps as I go. So keep watching if you'd like some holiday decor ideas and inspiration. Hey, I'm Deanna. Welcome to my studio. In this video, I'll be transforming ordinary items into my Christmas decor. I'm going to be adding touches of metallic leaf to each project. But if you don't have gold, silver, or copper leaf, don't worry. You can substitute metallic paint or any paint color of your choice that will match your holiday decor. So let's get started. For this DIY project, I'll be using 3 pieces of cut firewood. I'll be adding some gold leaf to the wood pieces and setting them near my fireplace as a modern rustic decor element. I toyed with the idea of doing gold, silver, or copper, or maybe each piece in a different hue. But I've decided to just go ahead with gold since that was my initial idea. I'll begin with this big piece here right in the center. Start by dusting off any loose bits of dirt or bark. I really like this side here as it is with this little piece of bark and the sap showing and the color of the wood. So I've decided that this piece right beside it will be solid gold leaf. This is gold leaf size. In order for your sheets of gold leaf to stick to the surface, you first need to put down this glue. It's a specialty glue different than regular white glue because when this dries, it stays sticky and then your sheets of gold leaf will stick wherever you've painted this size. I'll start by applying a coat of leaf size to this entire side. For this log, I'm going to do a band around the bottom third, like it's dipped into gold leaf. I want this to be a matching set of logs that I'll stack beside my fireplace, but I want each piece to be a little bit different, so I'm going to apply the gold leaf slightly different on each piece. And for this piece, I think I'll just do both of the ends. I'm ready to apply the gold leaf to my pieces of wood. I can see where I've applied the size. It's a little bit shinier than the wood itself. And I know it's ready because when I touch it, it's still sticky, but nothing comes off on my finger. You press the gold leaf into the size, and it's going to stick wherever you've applied this adhesive. Now, if you're looking for a more in-depth video on this process, you can check out my How to Gold Leaf tutorial and frequently asked questions video. You'll find the link in the description box below. Take a soft, dry brush and gently press the leaf into all the little grooves and creases. It's going to break off where it's not glued onto the surface. I'm going to repeat the process on the other 2 pieces of wood, and then I'll set them into place by my fireplace and we'll see how they look. And if you're wondering, this is imitation gold leaf. It's still made of metal, but it's not real gold. It's a little bit more cost effective, but it still looks just as beautiful. I won't be applying a sealer over top of this piece, simply because it's purely decorative, and so I'm not worried about that added durability. All right, I think these are finished. Let's go see how they look by my fireplace. This project starts with secondhand books. I've purchased 3 different sized books that I'll be turning into decorative trees with concrete bases. I selected different sized books so that my trees would be different sizes. Start by removing the cover from the book. Make 3 folds on each page and repeat the steps until all pages have been folded. Take the top right corner and fold down towards the spine. Crease that edge. Fold one more time, taking the pointed corner on the right and bringing it into the spine again. Crease that edge. Then fold this bottom triangle that overhangs the bottom of the book to create a crease. and then tuck this little triangle under. Repeat these steps until all of your pages have been folded. This could be a completed paper tree, but I'm going to be adding a couple more elements to the project. First, I'll fold the other two books. I'll be using these pieces of wood and dowel as my tree trunks, and I've cut them into 8, 10, and 12 inches to go with my small, medium, and large size books. Now I'll make the concrete base for the trees. Check your local hardware store for concrete mix and just follow the mixing and safety instructions on the bag. I'm using a mix that includes cement powder, sand, and aggregate, so all I have to do is add water. I've got one plastic container and 2 paper cups that I'll be using as the forms for my tree bases. Scoop some concrete into the containers. I've done mine about an inch and a half. Now tap the sides of the container. Tapping the container helps to remove air bubbles and settles the aggregate, which will help to get you nice, smooth sides and edges. While the concrete is still wet, I'll set my pieces of dowel into the concrete so they can harden in place. I'll use a piece of painter's tape to help hold the dowel right in the center. Once your dowels are secured into place with tape, you can lightly tap the edges one more time. This will take about 24 hours to harden, so I'll set these aside for now. I finished folding my books into trees, and I'm really loving how they turned out. I'm ready to move on and put them together with the bases. But before I do, I just want to mention a couple of things. This smaller book had really fine pages, and so it was really easy to fold it and to use the entire book. These two books had much thicker pages, and there were quite a few more pages, so I actually didn't use the entire book. For these two, I ended up tearing the books in half down the spine and only used about half the book to build the tree. On the smaller book, where I used the entire spine of the book, the center hole is just the right size for my wooden dowel. Because these two now have much smaller center holes, I trimmed the wooden dowels and sanded the tips to a finer point so it would fit the center diameter better. The concrete has now been sitting for just over 24 hours, and I'm ready to take it out of the molds and see how it looks. I always use plastic or paper, something that I can easily cut if it doesn't pop right out. Before I put my trees together, I'm just going to add a little bit of gold leaf to the tops. Now I'm ready to put my trees together. I'll start with the smallest one. I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue right here into the center. Even though the dowel fits really snug, this will just give a little added durability. And I'll do a little bit more glue right in here to secure together the first and the last page. These trees are now done. I'm excited to add them to my Christmas decor. Let's go find a spot to put them. I'll be starting this project with Christmas sheet music, and I'll be turning these pages into candle holders, which are perfect for these little LED tea lights. I was hoping to use an old Christmas Carol book for this project, but I wasn't able to find one at a secondhand store. Instead, I've printed these images of sheet music that I found online. Using a pair of scissors, cut the sheet music into strips. These pieces are about a ½ inch to an inch wide. Now tear your strips in half, approximately at the middle. I'm placing these strips in a pile with the torn side all facing in the same direction. Now I'm going to blow up 3 balloons. I'm going to go with a small, a medium, and a large size. Working in small sections at a time, I'll decoupage the strips of sheet music together using the balloon as a round form. Paint some Mod Podge onto the balloon. I'm putting the torn edge of the paper near the tied part of the balloon, about 1/3 of the way down. Once it's stuck to the balloon, I'll coat over top with a layer of the Mod Podge. Paint some more Mod Podge onto the balloon, and then lay another strip slightly overlapping the first strip. Continue to lay strips overlapping the paper until you've gone around the entire balloon. I'll be leaving about the top third of the balloon open with the torn edge creating a complete circle. If you notice your edges are starting to ripple, just use your finger to lightly press those down. And then just continue to add strips at the bottom to fill any blank spaces. I'll just set this on top of a paper cup, leave it to dry. And now I'm going to repeat those same steps on the large and medium size balloons. On this larger balloon, I've left a bit bigger opening at the top. I'd say maybe half of the balloon is being coated. There's about 1/3 left uncovered on the medium-sized balloon. And I'll set this one aside to dry as well. I left these to sit and dry overnight. Now I'm just loosening the balloon from the sides and making a small cut at the top to deflate the balloon. And now I'll apply a coat of the leaf size to the entire inside of each one of these paper balls. To avoid missing any spots, I just start by doing one stroke about a brush width wide, then rotate the ball and do a stroke right beside, slightly overlapping. If you do miss any spots, it's no big deal. You can always come back and add a little bit more size after you've applied your gold leaf. All right, I think I'm ready to go here. I'll take my gold leaf and lay it inside. I'm just going to gently lay a few sheets into place before pressing them down. Okay, that looks good. One more to go. Now I'll take a piece of paper towel and fold it, and then very gently press the leaf into place. I'm using this soft cloth to press the leaf into place rather than a brush because these paper structures are pretty soft to begin with, and I think the brush would just be a little bit too aggressive, and all the loose bits just start to flake away. These 3 pieces are now finished. I'm not going to be putting a sealer on the inside because it's just a decorative piece and it won't get handled. If you decide to make this project, make sure you use LED tea lights. Do not use real candles with a flame. Since these candle holders are made of paper, they could easily catch on fire. I like these LED tea lights because they simulate the flicker of the real candle light, but are a much safer option, especially when you have curious pets around the house. I think these will look great on my front entrance table. Let's go set them up. I've got some secondhand fake fruit here, and with a little bit of restyling, I think these will make great tree ornaments. First, I'll start by lightly sanding the fruit to scuff up the surface. It's a pretty slick, shiny surface, and because I'm going to be painting it, I want to rough it up a little bit so the paint has something to grab onto. Now I'll wipe down the fruit with a damp cloth to remove the dust from sanding. Each piece of fruit is going to get a base coat of chalk paint. I'll be using the color Old White. I'm using chalk paint because it dries quickly, it has no odor, and I don't need to put down a primer for this to stick to the fruit. That first coat was really quick and easy. I'm going to leave these to dry now before moving on to the next layer. The first coat of paint is now dry and I'm ready to do a second coat. But I noticed on the apples, some of the red color started bleeding through the surface. I just apply a quick layer of shellac. It's a traditional finish and sealer, and it's great for stain blocking. While those 2 apples are drying, I'll move on to a second coat on my other pieces of fruit. My second coat of paint is done on these pieces of fruit. I'm going to leave these to dry before moving on to the next step. Now that the base coat is dry, I can have some fun decorating these to match my decor. This year I'm going with a black and white theme for my tree ornaments, and of course I'll be adding some touches of gold leaf. I'll be using some low-tack painter's tape to mask off areas and help to create nice crisp lines. I like to gently press the edge of the tape where my paint will touch to help prevent bleed through. With an ultra-fine sanding sponge, I'm going to lightly distress some of these fruit pieces now, just to add a little bit of character. I'm just using a very light pressure as I sand, so I can get back to some of this white paint color without going all the way through to the red color that the apple used to be. I love that extra interest that sanding has given. It just added a little bit of tonal variation in the black, and some of the paint dust transferred onto the white, giving it an ever so slightly antiqued appearance. And I love the play of the very flat paint color in combination of the shiny gold. I really love where the leaf is broken up and I can see the white paint underneath. It's almost like a crackle effect. I'm really happy with how these are coming along, and I can't wait to hang them on my tree. Now I'll add some ribbon so I have a way to hang these ornaments from my tree. This ribbon was a little too wide, so I cut thin strips off of the edge so that I could use the piece of gold ribbon wire. I'll tie a knot at the bottom of each piece to make a loop. Put a dab of hot glue right by the stem, and then glue the knot as close to the base of the stem as you can get. I'm using a little piece of wire here to help press the ribbon into the glue so I don't burn my fingers. These pieces of fruit are very light, so the hot glue and the ribbon will be enough to hold the weight of the fruit. I'm loving how these turned out. I can't wait to see how they look on the tree. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this set of ornaments? Let's go hang them on the tree and see how they look. This project starts with a secondhand serving tray that I purchased from a thrift store. Aside from a few scratches, this tray is in pretty good condition and it's really nice and solid. So I'm going to give it a little festive makeover. To start, I'll clean the tray. The design in the middle feels a little bit raised. I'm not sure if this will show through my finish, but just in case, I'm going to lightly sand and smooth this out. And I'll just give the entire tray a quick once over, lightly scuff the surface. And this will help the paint to grab on a little bit easier. And then using a damp cloth, I'll just wipe up the dust. Now that's feeling nice and smooth, so you won't be able to see it through my finish. Now I'm going to base coat the entire tray with chalk paint. I'll be using the color Athenian Black. For this project, I'll also be painting the sides and the bottom. You don't necessarily have to do the bottom because no one really sees that, but for me it just feels more complete when I do the entire piece. I ended up doing 2 coats of paint on the flat surface. I wanted to make sure that the original design was completely covered before moving on to my next step. Next, I'm going to decoupage this Christmas wrapping paper to the inside bottom of the tray. Later, I'll be adding gold leaf and then I'll distress the entire piece to give it a real vintage Christmas feel. To start off, I'll cut a piece that's big enough to cover the bottom of the tray. This wrapping paper happens to be double-sided. I'm going to go with the red and green side up. Now I'll use a marker to trace the outline of my tray. I'll be tracing onto the back side of the paper. Now I'll cut out the circle. Now I'll dry fit the paper to see how it fits. It's a little snug in some places, so I do need to trim a little bit more away. I'll start at one side and where it fits, and then pressing the paper in the opposite direction, I'll bring it right up against the edge. Now I'll use my nails and just create a bit of a crease so I know where to trim. Now that's fitting much better. I'm using Mod Podge Dishwasher Safe to decoupage the wrapping paper into the tray. I chose this rather than regular Mod Podge because I do plan on putting drinks on my tray and I want to be able to hand wash if anything spills. I don't plan on putting my tray in the dishwasher, but I do want a surface that is resistant to water. Brush a layer of the Mod Podge onto the surface. As well as on the back side of your paper. Then with a clean, dry hand, press the paper into place. Just really pressing over the entire surface to remove any air bubbles or wrinkles. This is a nice thick wrapping paper, so I'm not really getting any wrinkles. If you're using something thinner like tissue paper or napkins, you might see more bubbles and imperfections, but this is laid down really nice and smooth. I'm just going to clean up some of this excess that got onto the side here. The Mod Podge is now completely dry and I'm ready to move on to the next step. I noticed there are a few air bubbles in the surface that weren't there initially. I'm not exactly sure why it bubbled. It could be because I didn't have enough Mod Podge underneath, or maybe I didn't press firmly enough all in one direction. In any case, this will be perfect for the look I'm going for. As I start sanding, you can see that the added texture is actually a bonus. It's helping to create an even more worn look, which is helping me to achieve that vintage, distressed Christmas look I was hoping for. You don't need a lot of pressure when sanding paper to distress it. I've hardly got any pressure here on the sanding block, and look at all of that awesome texture that is just popping out. I'm ready to add the gold leaf. I'll start by applying a coat of leaf size to this entire side. I'll lightly sand to distress the gold leaf. Some of that black paint will pop through, and overall it'll dull the gold leaf and tarnish it just that little bit, giving a bit more of an aged appearance. I love how distressing really brought out the texture of the brush strokes. It really gave this leaf a tarnished, aged appearance. To finish this tray off, I'll be applying 2 coats of the Mod Podge dishwasher safe, allowing them to dry about 1 hour to 2 hours between each coat. I'll be putting it over the entire paper surface as well as over top of the leaf. I think this tray will be perfect for serving cocktails. Let me know in the comments below, what would you serve on this tray? I had a lot of fun making these Christmas decor projects. Let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite. And if you're interested in learning more DIY decor projects like the ones in this video, then consider subscribing. All you have to do is click the red subscribe button as well as the bell icon so you're alerted every time I upload new videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back here next time.